and then making people believe that they can get that physique with that Astro Ball. It's just not true. It's not true, and I can't stand it when people do that.
A lot of this is going to be mental and emotional health. If you are walking on eggshells, you are emotionally exhausted. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, Next Level University Mastermind, week number 41, how to level up your health in 2021. So we talk about life, love, health, and wealth. It's been a long time since we have really talked about health. So we figured at the end of the day, whether it's your mental, emotional, spiritual, or physical health, that is the foundation of you, right? If you're not in good health, it's hard to have a great life. It's hard for you to show up every day consistently and chase your dreams or whatever it may be. So today we're going to talk a little bit about health.
Yeah, and again, it's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And that's one thing we want to get across here. So for example, if you don't have high emotional health, it's going to be really hard to feel good after a speech doesn't go well or after a mastermind has less attendees than you'd hoped. But I think that's a really good example, right? Is if Kevin and I didn't have strong emotional health and strong emotional habits, we might have taken this low showing as a really big hit. And so I want you to think about your own life throughout these habits of like, picture this as creating a strong foundation for a house and then reinforcing the foundation. If there's a crack in the foundation, you locate it, and then you fix it, you fill it in. And honestly, some people are trying to build a skyscraper on the sand. You know, I often talk about how there's someone in a hospital bed right now begging God for the opportunity that all of us have. And I think we lose sight of that. I know that I've been bedridden in my life, and for 3 months I was very, very ill, and I struggled to do anything. And I felt terrible about myself. It affected my mental health and my emotional health and my spiritual health as well. And so I think that we tend to take this for granted when we have it. And then the moment we get sick, we go, oh, why didn't I do more positive habits to prevent this? So I think that's a good frame to get started, and let's rock.
Bada bing, bada boom. So I don't know about you guys, but there's two places where I have my best thoughts. All right. And one of those places I never want to have my best thoughts. So number one is in the shower. I'm sure you guys, you know, if anybody here has had their best thoughts or breakthroughs or great ideas in the shower, that's one. But I also have really good thoughts when I'm trying to fall asleep. And I am convinced that one of the reasons we have the best thoughts in the shower and when we're trying to sleep is because that is the only time throughout our day that we actually have silence. Now, some people listen to music in the shower or podcasts. I don't do that. And I'm convinced. I've always had my best thoughts in the shower, and I've heard so many people that have the same. For me, when I can't fall asleep, it's because I'm thinking of things constantly, like ideas for the podcast, whatever it may be, episodes, you know, helping clients, whatever it is, okay? So recently, what I've started doing, along with meditation, is when I get 10 to 15 minutes away from home, I turn off my radio, and I literally drive home in silence. And when I do this, I have those thoughts. I have the same thoughts. My mind is racing. I have all these great ideas, okay? How often are you actually turning off your distractions? If you really want to get to the next level of health, I think that you have to sit with yourself, with your thoughts, and understand yourself at a deeper level. So my lesson for this, for point number one, is start meditating. And if you already meditate, this is like, for me, it's been a game changer. Any chance you get where you can sit with yourself and your thoughts only for a long period of time is going to be super beneficial for you. I was listening to the 7 Spiritual Laws by Deepak Chopra. He suggests doing it for an hour in the morning, an hour at night. I'm not there yet, but I do think that so many of us run from our thoughts, right? That's what noise is. Noise is keeping you from connecting to your intuition. And Alan and I have done so much work on the S side, on the spiritual side of health, that it has really, really benefited us. And I can't believe, looking back, that I didn't know how valuable it truly was.
Right.
So my question for you is, how often are you sitting in silence? And even more powerful question, how often are you avoiding silence? Because when you sit in silence, you have those thoughts that you're afraid of. Super, super important. So my takeaway, wherever you guys are tonight, if you get 10 minutes where you can turn everything off, turn the lights off, and just sit. You don't have to be laying down, just sit. Or maybe you're in the car, turn your radio off. Give yourself 10 minutes just to be and see what comes to the surface.
So we're in the studio right now, and I do coaching calls here. Kevin and I kind of switch off days. Sometimes we do them together. But in between coaching calls, Amy knows that I like to have at least a half an hour in between calls. And the reason why that is I talk about how it's the silence between the notes that makes the music. And so when I get off of a coaching call, it's very heavy. We usually went very deep. If you're a client of mine, you know that. And what I often do is Kevin has a yoga mat over there in the corner. I'll take the yoga mat. I'll take these posture pads that we have on our chairs off. There's like clips. You can take them off the chair. And I'll literally put in earplugs and I'll sit in silence and I'll turn all these lights off and I'll lay down until my next call. And I'll actually set my alarm for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. Why? Because I want to go into my next coaching call from a place of abundance, not hanging on to all the junk that we just stirred up on that last one, right? Because Kevin and I as coaches, we're responsible for the success of a lot of different people, and that can be very heavy. So if you don't let that frenetic energy start to like really dissipate before you go into the next one, you can get really overwhelmed and then do a poor job. Number 2, okay, now this is an easy one. I want you to ask yourself, where is your water bottle right now? You've heard us talk a lot about this, but remember, common sense is not common practice. So mine is right here.
I'm rocking the pink one today. This is Taryn's.
Not bad.
I've stolen it from her.
Cheers.
Borrowed it.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
I don't know why I'm opening this. I could just...
It's getting weird up in here.
Cheers.
Cheers, man. Cheers. You spilled all over yourself?
I spilt on myself.
Classic.
Okay. So seriously though, and back when I did fitness coaching, this was an interesting thing. I used to do it based on sleep, hydration, nutrition, training, and mobility. Hydration is so critical. And whenever people would tell me they were having trouble hitting their water goal, it would always be the exact same reason every single time. I would say, how often is your water bottle within arm's length? So trigger, behavior, reward. There's a great book by Charles Duhigg called The Power of Habit. The trigger is seeing the bottle. Okay, the behavior is drinking, and then the reward is your body feeling refreshed when you drink the water. Don't wait till you're thirsty to hydrate. And so that's what I want to talk to you about. Drink more water. How many ounces of water are you drinking a day? Seriously, like really check in with that. How many ounces of water have you been drinking lately per day? Okay, now I want you to take your body weight, whatever that is right now. For me, it's 195, and I want you to multiply it by 0.6. That is the amount of water minimum that you should be drinking every single day. Now, the other thing I want you to think about here, don't do it all at once. I drink probably 120 ounces of water during my workout, but that shouldn't count for my whole day. Why? Because that's only a 1 hour period. Technically even less than that. Now I'm doing 40-minute workouts. But the point is you want to space it throughout the day, and that's why it's so important to have your water bottle. And the last thing I'll say about hydration, it needs to be your water bottle. I just switched to this one like very recently. They're giving this out at my gym. But normally you used to see my other one was like a jug. And if not, by the way, you see me with a coffee. And a lot of times I'll put water in that little coffee mug as well. So it has to be something that you associate as a trigger.
Fire.
Thank you, brother.
This is an interesting thing because a lot of people they'll go out of their way to get like certain food, organic food, or they'll take all sorts of vitamins and supplements, or they'll, drink protein powders or make sure their skincare routine is where it needs to be. At the end of the day, water is such an important thing. I think so many people are consistently dehydrated. I remember looking back to when I was a trainer, when I worked at my old job, I was almost the only one who ever carried around a water bottle. Genuinely. I always had my water bottle on the work site, right? Make it part of you. And honestly, if you have a big water bottle and people want to judge you for it, that's okay. Wear that as a badge of honor. You're doing something great for your body. Most people, I think, are really dehydrated for most of their life. Genuinely.
Really quickly, I had a client who was very overweight, and when I asked her about hydration, how much water are you drinking per day? She said, a ton, so much. She was drinking 32 ounces. We tracked it, 32 ounces, and this person was nearly 300 pounds. That is morbidly dehydrated. And she perceived that as a lot of water. Remember, your perception of what enough water is not correct, most likely. 0.6 times your body weight minimum. I just can't drive that home enough. And also, I remember people ask me my skincare routine because I have what they believe is nice skin. I appreciate the compliment. Honestly, I don't do anything other than just take good care of myself, I think. And also, I do think I have naturally nice skin. But if you are spending a bunch of money on makeup and all these acne creams and stuff, hydration, if you're not doing that first, you're wasting your money.
Fire. I don't know about you guys, but this will be one that I am committed to doing better at because I'm not necessarily good at this. So when we're young, we're all outside, right? Like my mom used to have to yell at me to come inside. I could stay out till the street lights came on. You know, I could go across the street, hang out with my friends. I literally was outside playing in the creek or playing in the leaves or playing in the woods or playing paintball or whatever it is. Then that kind of stopped as we got older. Okay? So get outside. This is something that I'm going to take my own advice with, especially now, right? Like 2020 was a tough year because everybody was locked inside. If you have a backyard, try to find something that you can do, even if you just go outside for 10 minutes and listen to an audiobook or something. So we have weekly masterminds with our buddy Mark Metry. And before COVID, he would come in the studio and we would hang out here and chat. But lately, since COVID, he's been doing it virtually. It's literally a joke between Alan and I. Every time we get on the phone with Mark, he's just walking around his neighborhood on FaceTime, and the Wi-Fi is brutal. But Mark is like always consistently taking his business calls on the go. He's very committed and very consistent when it comes to getting outside. That is something that I have taken from Mark Metry. So my question to you is, how often are you actually getting outside? For me, it's not nearly enough. And I also, this is somebody that we're trying to get on the show in the very near future, Sean Stevenson wrote a book called Sleep Better. And in this book, it talks about how important sunlight is for your actual sleep. Okay? I never realized how important sunlight was for you until I read this book. That's probably a little ignorant of me, unfortunately. But that's my question. How often are you actually getting outside? Like, I'm not talking about, walking to get the mail and back. How often are you intentionally going outside? Set up, even if it's every Saturday, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to listen to 10 minutes of my audiobook, right? Even if it's cold, like you're not going to freeze. It'll be good to get some fresh air. Your body will thank you for it. And that's definitely one way to level up your health.
Emilia and I are now committed to, we're taking Tucker for a walk every Sunday morning. And I remember when I was in LA, this was several years back, but for any of you who have traveled to LA, it's a huge city and it's very much a ton of concrete. There's not a lot of nature, like anywhere to be seen. And outside of it, there's mountains and there's hikes. And we went on this one hike. And I remember as soon as we were in nature, everyone was so friendly. It was like, hi, everyone said hello to each other. Everyone was so friendly in nature. And that's a common theme that I've noticed ever since then. But when we went back to LA, no one says hi to each other. It's a very kind of depressing, somewhat, less than ideal place for humans to reside. Now, I am all for sitting in an office, getting hard work done. I am all for the digital age. I'm all for, Amazon delivering things to us rather than us all going out and all that, but especially during COVID. But what I will say is that I've had some of the best conversations of my life while I was on walks with other people. I hike with Emilia occasionally. Now we're walking Tucker. We usually get a cup of tea and we'll walk. Now, in the winter, it's a lot less, but I can tell you from experience that some of my best conversations, biggest breakthroughs, came from when we were out in nature walking. Fortunately, she has a really nice neighborhood. Hopefully, you guys do too. If not, go to a park or something. Oh.
See, that always happens.
Right, that does. Okay, next, number 4. So Kev already mentioned this. Sleep is sacred. This is like my mantra for 2021, especially for my girlfriend. She wanted me to help her, support her get better sleep. And so sleep is sacred is something I've been saying to myself religiously lately, like constantly. Sleep is sacred, sleep is sacred. Okay, so whenever I'm about to go to bed and I'm sleeping over her place or she's at my place, I always ask her, sweetheart, do you have your earplugs in? Because she sleeps far better with earplugs. I've just noticed it, and so do I. They're such a game changer. If you've never tried them, they are such a game changer. Now, I have really expensive ones that are like kind of clay-like, and I actually don't know where I get them. My mom used to get them a while back, and I have her order them for me. But
I believe on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I got those too.
Okay.
I think they're on Amazon.
And those, you've tried a bunch of other ones too, right?
Yeah, these are the best ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have to... Honestly, if you're curious, please DM me because I will find out where these earplugs are. They're actually fairly expensive. I think they're like $25 for like a pack of them. But they're such a game changer. I have them in my backpack at all times. As a matter of fact, I left them last night at Emilia's. She audioed me today. But here's the point. Before we go to bed, I always ask her, do you have your earplugs in? And if she says no, I have to wake up early for work, she's afraid she won't wake up to her alarm. Okay, so whenever you're not taking an action that you know is good for you, there's some fear. There's some uncertainty. So what I tell her is, sweetheart, I'll wake up to my alarm and I'll make sure you're up at 6. Then you can let Tucker out, go to work, and I'll go back to bed. Okay? So the reason I tell you that story is that sleep is so unreasonably critical. Whenever she gets good sleep, she notices it. Whenever she doesn't, she often will audio me and say, we got to do better at getting to bed earlier or whatever. The point is when I don't get good sleep, our job is very cognitively taxing. Okay, we're having deep conversations constantly. We're always trying to add more value on the podcast. We're masterminding. It's a very cognitively taxing job. It's not like we're just making widgets with the same actions over and over. So when I don't get good sleep, I burn to the ground, for lack of better phrasing. It's a very noticeable, like, I get overwhelmed. I'm afraid of stuff I normally wouldn't be afraid of. I'm fumbling over my words. You've heard me do it. And so my question for you is, how many uninterrupted hours are you getting of sleep? Uninterrupted is the key word. Early mothers know this. You can get interrupted all throughout the night. Even if you got 10 hours of sleep in bed, but you were interrupted like 6, 7 times, you'll still wake up exhausted. I've had that happen with Tucker a few times. So what's the quality uninterrupted hours? How many are you getting on average per night? Seriously, if it's not 7 or more, I would argue you are leaving massive impact on the table. And they're actually linking that to Alzheimer's as well, by the way, which apparently there's a 1 in 2 chance that if we live to 80, we're going to get Alzheimer's. 1 in 2. That's 50%. Yeah, if we live to 80. So my action for you, buy earplugs. Seriously, DM me right now and say, what are the earplugs you're talking about? I'm telling you, these will change your life. You can use them on planes. You can use them on trains. You can use them before bed. They've changed my life.
I see how fast. We'll get on a plane back in the day, and Alan literally puts them in and is asleep before they even show you how to put the seatbelt on. It's mind-blowing to me. It bothers me because I dislike planes strongly. Also, so another thing about understanding the importance of sleep is, and this is something we try not to push, I don't want you guys to think sleep is bad. Like if you're sleeping in, you're losing, because people are different. Some people like to stay up late and work. I like to get up early, but I know when I sleep in, I feel like crap about myself because I feel like I'm not doing all the things I should be doing. But at the end of the day, reframe your understanding that you filling your battery is going to make you more effective throughout the day. That is a huge thing for me because I'm so used to getting up early, and I genuinely feel like I'm 3 hours behind if I sleep in for an hour. So that's a whole thing I have to deal with.
We're good on time. If you don't mind, I would love to say one more thing. So one thing I've noticed, and if you're in this room, hopefully you know this isn't true, but I wouldn't consider myself a lazy person. If you knew me well, I don't think you'd consider me lazy. But I can tell you from experience that other people who see that I sleep in consider me lazy. Okay? So, like, let's say someone notices that I sleep in till 8:30 a.m. or 9 a.m. I don't set an alarm. You might see that little snapshot and think, oh, he must be lazy. He's not hardworking. It couldn't be farther from the truth. As a matter of fact, the reason I'm sleeping so much is because I was up working and because I can't wait to work again today. So you want to disassociate this nonsense. Genuinely, it's nonsense. I think a lot of people correlate sleep with laziness. It could not be less true. That is crap. Now, there are some people who sleep till 11 a.m. every day and are lazy, but they're not the same. They're not even correlated, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think, you'll see, it's interesting because you'll see those motivational things on Instagram or whatever platform you're on that says, like, the 4 a.m. club, why don't all successful people get up early? It's not true. Not everybody gets up early. It's like, at the end of the day, make sure you get enough sleep. If you want to get up at noon and you go to bed at 4 a.m., like, just make sure you get enough sleep. That's going to throw off your internal clock, but we're not going to go down that road.
Right.
Number 5, it's really hard to feel good and be healthy when you're consistently walking on eggshells. So what do I mean by that? I have been in several situations where I have lived with somebody who I couldn't be myself around, right? So the example I'll use is when I think I was probably like 23 or 20. Yeah, probably 23. That was the first time I ever moved out of living with my family. And they ended up getting a 2-bedroom, so I didn't have anywhere to go. Like, I couldn't go live with them because there wasn't a bedroom for me. I had just left my girlfriend, so my girlfriend and I broke up. I ended up moving in with a family friend. And that family friend was once my best friend. And him and I had like a falling out. We weren't really good friends anymore. And he would come home drunk at times, and him and I would get in arguments. And it just was kind of a negative environment. Sometimes, not the whole time. But we finally got to the point where I was able to express my truth to him, and I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells anymore. That was so empowering. And that has happened to me several times. I've had some interesting living situations throughout the years. I've been in some interesting spots. So it's super important because if for you, when you go home, okay, when you go home and if you feel like you're walking on eggshells, that is supposed to be your safe place. That is supposed to be the place where you're understood the most. At some point, you have to speak your truth. Because if you don't, you're going to be consistently living in the anxiety zone, right? Like when I go home, I am fully comfortable telling Taryn about my day or telling her how I feel or that I'm overwhelmed and I ask her about hers. Like that is fully safe. I can fully express my truth and she can do the same. But if I had to go home and pretend to be somebody else, that I wouldn't be very healthy, right? Especially my mental health. I wouldn't feel supported. I'd feel misunderstood. So my question to you is, where in your life have you not expressed your truth? Who are the people that don't know your truth? And how is that affecting you? Especially if it's at home. I want you after this, if you're listening to this after or if you're listening to this now, when we're done with this, write down what your truth is in certain situations and admit to yourself whether or not you've expressed it. I know for me it's always been hard because I was afraid to lose love. I know Alan and I have dealt with that. But at the end of the day, you're going to be super grateful that you did it, and it's definitely going to help you. When we're talking about health, we're not talking about weight necessarily or, certain physical healths. A lot of this is going to be mental and emotional health. If you are walking on eggshells, you are emotionally exhausted. And I know that because I've experienced it. So my goal is to help you with that, and I think if you write down where you're walking on those eggshells, it's going to be far harder to stop.
In book, you said okay in one of those earlier. I wanted to kind of interrupt you.
Please do.
Yeah,
Please
with
do.
the funnies.
Yeah, of course.
So, super important. Two things I want to say here real quick. One of them is if you are interested in more of the fitness type of stuff, this is a health mastermind. We want the questions. Seriously. And at the risk of an ego flare, I did study fitness religiously for 5 years straight. I do know that arena very, very well. Please ask us questions. If you're having trouble reaching your fitness goals, like seriously, we do have the answers. We just do. I'm going to say that. So please ask us if you want more, okay? The second thing I want to talk about briefly is the suppression of self-expression leads to depression. That quote, we read The Biology of Belief in the book club, and in The Biology of Belief, Bruce Lipton talks about how every cell in your body, you have 50 trillion cells, bone cells, brain cells, muscle cells, fat cells, all that. Every cell in your body is either in expansion mode or in scarcity. Okay? And so, to Kevin's point, if you're walking home, or you're walking into your home, and you feel like you have to suppress yourself, suppress your truth, you're not in an expanding time. Okay, you're not going to grow. You're not going to expand. It's actually hurting your cells. It's actually affecting your physical health more than I think you realize. The analogy he uses is a city that's expanding and building new buildings and new roads and all that versus a city that's in a recession or a depression when everyone's closing businesses and all that stuff. Imagine your cells. Every time you go home and you're suppressing, you're living in fear, your cells are actually living in fear. You're more likely to get sick. You're more likely to have concerns and fears. It's going to perpetuate. So you really do want to have an environment that supports full expression. There have been not a million times, but many times where Kevin said something unintentionally hurtful. I didn't take it seriously.
A million?
Not a million.
Oh my goodness.
But a few times when it's like, right? And it's like, I don't take it personal. You're good, man. He doesn't have to walk on eggshells around me. Why? Because I'm not going to get butthurt every time he doesn't say something perfectly. It's very difficult to be fully expressed around people that really are judgy and toxic. So just be hyper conscious of that. Number 6, and this goes with that as well. We want you to worry less. Learn how to worry less. Narrow your worry. Narrow your circle of concern. So we had John Laurito, one of our clients, on the mastermind. I believe it was 27, something like that.
It's a minute ago.
It's a long time ago. But he talked about the 3 buckets. This is so important. Now, don't get this confused with the 5 buckets of your associations that Kevin and I talk about. This is different. 3 buckets of concern. Okay. The first bucket is things you have control over. Okay. The second bucket is things you have influence over. The third bucket is something you have no control and no influence over. So I'm going to give you an example of each. What I am saying right now, I have full control over. How you respond to it and what you think of me, I have some influence over. My tonality, my pauses, my posture, my body language, right? I have influence over it, but I can't control what you think of me. I can only control what I say and how I say it. Okay, so first is what I can control, what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. What I can influence is what you think of me by how I say it. And what I can't control is a meteor hitting this studio right now. That'd be really crazy if that happened, huh?
I wouldn't like that very much.
But that's something I don't have any control over, so why concern myself with it? If I'm sitting here concerned about, well, a meteor could hit us right now, that's a giant waste of time and energy. I honestly believe what I'm about to say. Most people spend a lot of time and energy focused on worrying about things they have no control over. And that, in my opinion, is a tell. It's a tell of how fear-based they are, how their lack of development. I'm not making you feel bad if that's the case. I've been guilty of that too, especially when I don't get good sleep and don't do any of these other habits. But think about the 3 buckets. How many things are you concerned with that really you have no control over? You might not even have influence over them. What you said in high school, I can't believe I said that, I can't believe I did that. That is a waste of your time. Unless you're going to learn from it, in which case it is valuable. Okay? So take out a piece of paper, either now or when we're done, and I want you to write out the 3 buckets. The first bucket is things I can control. Second bucket, things I can influence. Third bucket, things I have no control or influence over. And I want you to think about, write down all the things you worry about in a given day. Do you worry about old age? Do you worry about what people think of you? Do you worry about what you said yesterday? Do you worry about your bank account? Do you worry about your future? Do you worry about your kids? Whatever it is, write it all down. Put it in the right bucket, and I want you to understand which percentage. If that third bucket, things you have no influence and no control over, is overflowing, you have to work on that. You have to. This is something that I do with my clients. It's so important. Honestly, most of my clients don't even know that I'm doing this, but I'm honestly gauging how much of their circle of concern is things outside their control, and I'm trying to help them switch that every single call, constantly. I'm doing this with Kev, myself, Emilia, everybody. So you really got to raise your awareness to how much that third bucket is jeffing you.
This has been something that I have really practiced. So again, guys, like I never planned on being an entrepreneur. I never planned on putting myself into debt to grow a business. I've literally been, $500 in the negative in my bank account, having people call me. Like, you have to understand, like, okay, what can I do about this now? And if I'm losing sleep over those things, and I have in the past, but that was honestly a very conscious decision for me of, okay, there are certain things that I can think about. Like, I want to grow the show, get more clients, help more people. But are there certain things that are just going to be a waste of energy? Like, well, I'm getting paid from this client on this date. I can't really worry about the money in my bank account right now unless I know I'm going to go get a new client. For me, that has been such a game changer because, there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to this journey, more than I've ever experienced. And being able to let go has definitely been a help for me, and I don't think I'd be where I am if I wasn't capable of doing that. So very important. Very important.
Strong work.
I appreciate that.
No problem. 26 minutes on the clock.
26 minutes on the clock. Number 7, if you really want to level up your health, you have to do less of the crap you don't like. Okay? Again, guys, I tell the story about my old job and all the stuff that I went through, but I remember what it was like to be at a job that you didn't like for 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and then when the weekend comes, you don't even feel like doing anything. Like, you don't have any energy. You just want to veg out on the couch. You got to find stuff that fulfills you. 2021 should be the year that you find and practice what fulfills you. I literally, with my clients, will say, okay, what fulfills you? This, and this. Okay, tonight I want you to take a bubble bath. I want you to paint and do whatever the other thing is.
You got to sign up for your coaching.
My coaching is next level. But I think it's so important because a lot of other people say, and I'm not saying Alan does this, but, grind. It's all about the hustle. Sure, it is. But if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're not going to be able to do it consistently and long enough to actually reap the results. And that's something I see pretty often is people get burnt out. Imagine if you could bring in and schedule your fulfillment, especially if you don't like your job. So if you do not enjoy your job, I would challenge you, and I know 2021 is going to be an interesting year with COVID still here, but I would challenge you to start looking elsewhere and start understanding that we have a very limited time that we have on this earth. You should not spend 75% of it working at a job that you hate to look forward to the 2 days at the end of the week. Like, that's just not a way to live. I can tell you that from experience because I did that for a long time. I didn't go to college. I've been working since I was 16, mostly jobs I didn't enjoy. So I very much understand that. So if I was to sit down with you and say, hey, give me 10 things that fulfill you, would you be able to do it? Or is that something that is so far away from your radar because you're just trying to get by? That's my question to you. I want you to sit down later. There's going to be a lot of journaling after this. And I want you to write out the stuff that fulfills you. Maybe it's a bubble bath. Maybe it's watching Disney movies, right? Maybe it's whatever it is. Whatever it is for you. Write it down and try to practice it more. Because at the end of the day, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're not going to be healthy. And it's going to be far harder to stack the other things too. Like, I remember I used to sleep. Literally, I didn't do any of these things. I would sleep for 4 hours. I would work for 8, go to the gym, get Wendy's. Wendy's was always our favorite because they had like the 3 for $3.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And then and I would drink. Like, we'd go to the casino. I was just not living a healthy lifestyle. But it's almost like positive things avalanche and negative things avalanche. If you start incorporating some of these things, it's going to be far easier to incorporate the other positive ones, right? But if you're focused on what's negative in your life, you're going to find other negative things. And trust me, I did that with work a lot.
Avalanche.
There's a question.
Hammer it!
What do we
Avalanche,
got?
yeah.
I like
Avalanche,
that.
yeah.
That was nice.
I'm pretty good.
Okay. How do you start looking for a more fulfilling job if you don't know what your passion is? Where do I start?
All right, this is what I would do. If I said to you, hey, whoever you are, I want to hang out with you this Friday, what would you say you wanted to do? That's one. Like, Alan and I, this is a great example. Alan and I used to kind of hang out outside of the podcast, and now we see each other so much that doesn't matter. But when we were watching Friends, we would literally be talking about the podcast.
Yeah.
We'd be talking about personal development. We'd be talking about how to get better, how to help more people. I would say, what are the things... So another thing, what have other people told you you're good at? Like, people have told me I'm good at helping people. People have told me that I'm good at speaking and good at taking complex things and breaking them into simple takeaways, right? That all aligns with what I'm doing. So I would ask the people around you, when you see me talk about this, or what am I the most passionate about when you see me talking about it? Like, what can you tell that I'm lit up doing? That's one way. Or imagine your dream life. And this is the thing. I don't want you to think of what you think you can be successful doing. I want you to think of what you want to do. If you sat me down 3.5 years ago and said, do you think you can have a studio with 530 episodes and 15 full-time clients and blah, 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 I would have said no. I just said I wanted to have a podcast. It evolved as I went, right? So I would say that too.
I think there's a important understanding that all of us need to have, but particularly to answer this question, is there's someone who loves everything. I genuinely love our spreadsheets. I love numbers, obsessed, light up like a Christmas tree with numbers. Some people hate numbers, right? So obviously they shouldn't work in finance. So I think you do. You have to understand what you love. And it goes back to what Steve Jobs says, is like the people who love what they do, they eventually are seen as successful in the eyes of quote unquote society, but that's because they could persevere, because they loved it. You know, it's like, what would you miss if you weren't doing it? I can tell you for sure Kevin and I would miss this if we weren't doing it every week. For sure. Go ahead.
What happens what do you guys do if you love two different things? Like, I love my job and working on the team. Then how would you suggest managing both of those?
I would rate them from 0 to 10 how much each fulfills you. And then I would rate from 0 to 10 how much each meets your financial needs, both now and in the future. And then I would allocate your time in proportion to those numbers. So everything is a cost-value analysis. And I don't think a lot of people do this as much as I do. But Emilia and I recently whiteboarded about this, and some of my clients have done this as well. We all tell ourselves a story about everything. Okay, so you might be telling yourself a story that you love weight training, when in reality, you don't actually love it. You just need to do it to get the result you want. That's okay. So what I would do is for anyone who's in this sort of inner civil war, write out, and there's going to be a lot of journaling.
A lot of journaling.
Yeah, a lot of journaling.
Yeah.
So we wrote out everything that we want to accomplish in 2021 and then also in our life, and this was really heavy. But like I wrote out, for example, we wrote family. Okay, we wrote Tucker. We wrote our relationship. We wrote fitness. We wrote quality time with family. We wrote podcasting. We wrote speaking. We wrote it all out. And then we rated it from 0 to 10, how important it is to us. And it was like, and you can't do 10 out of 10 for all of them. That's the key. We literally did 10, 9.9, 9.8, 9.7, because speaking and podcasting are both very important to me. Very. But one is a little bit more important than the other. This is very hard for people when it comes to family. I've noticed a lot of people who are achievers, they think that they value family at a level 10, and they do because they love their family at a level 10. That does not mean they love quality time with their family at a level 10. So I'll just admit for myself, and hopefully everyone knows how relevant this is to them, I love my family 10 out of 10. No question. If you've seen how much I've cried with them, loved on them, spent time with them, spent time behind the scenes trying to help them, you'd know I'm a 10 out of 10. Quality time with them, if you looked at my actions, would not be a 10 out of 10. Okay? That's okay. There's no right or wrong answer. There's only right or wrong for you. Here's the problem. If I'm telling myself a story that quality time with my family is 10 out of 10, okay, and I'm spending a ton of time there, but I'm not doing my own speaking and my own podcasting, that's a value in conflict. That's going to eat me away because I know where I belong spiritually. So it's a matter of alignment. I think you need to say from 0 to 10, how aligned is this? Physical therapy, Amy, in this case. How aligned is this with my highest self? 0 to 10, whatever your truth is. Your intuition knows, okay? From 0 to 10, how aligned is it working on the NLU team? Okay, and then once you're aware of that, are you allocating your time accordingly? And hopefully that answers your question.
I have a different answer.
Okay,
I have a different answer. I would, well, along with Alan's, of course, I would go through the 6 basic human needs and figure out which needs are really getting met. It's interesting because with a position like you have with the team, I think that uncertainty is a little bit higher probably. Just because, what if we don't become what we say we're going to become, and we also don't understand the opportunities that are going to come. Right? Like, that's a whole nother thing. So I would literally sit down with 6 basic human needs. If you guys didn't see it, we did an episode on that recently, and figure out, like, okay, how well does this meet those? How well does this meet those? And then try to anticipate as much as you can moving forward the future aspect of it too. But it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. We're blessed. We went to Brendan Burchard's event, and one of the exercises we did was we got in groups of 4, I think, and he gave us some questions, and we had to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how clear we were. I believe that I had like probably 9s and 10s across the board.
Same.
And the average, I think, in the group was like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So we're very blessed to have the level of clarity that we have. But I think one of the reasons we do is because we found out pretty quickly what we didn't want.
Right.
And when you come close to dying or wanting to take your life, it definitely highlights some things for you for sure.
Yeah. And if you notice that Kevin and I are very consistent, it's because of the clarity. Inconsistency is an indicator of lack of clarity, in my opinion. And the very first question, I want to make sure we answer that too, because there was a second part that Amy kind of jumped in. I appreciate you, Amy, for doing that. But the first question was, how do I know what I want to do with my life? I think you have to look at what you love. That was only 1/3, okay? That was only 1/3 of the equation. What do you love to do? The other second third of that is, what am I good at? What am I really, really competent in? We all have that thing that we're so good at, but we kind of don't like doing it, right? Okay. And then that third thing, what does the world really, really need? What do they desperately need? Okay? So there's a star in the center of that Venn diagram. What do you love to do, sincerely? Because you can love cooking but suck at it, right? Maybe you don't even have a natural inclination for it. So what do you love to do? What does the world desperately need? And then what are you really, really, really good at? Okay? The center of that Venn diagram will tell you a lot about yourself and where you should fit. Just try to align a little bit more every day, a little more percentage with that truth that reveals itself.
And you got to try different stuff too. That's the other thing.
Got to
try some different things. You're up
Different things. Okay, what number are we on?
We're on number Ocho.
8.
on the Ocho.
15 mins. Okay.
ESPN the Ocho.
All right, number 8. Muscle mass is the most important thing ever of all time. No, but it is the most important for your fitness, in our opinion, especially if you want aesthetics, right? A lot of people say they want to be healthy. What they really want is to look good. Honestly, they're very connected. But you can think you want to lose weight. What you really want is to look better. But losing weight doesn't necessarily mean you're going to look better, okay? So early in my fitness journey, I was 160 pounds, skinny fat, drank too much and too often, was not healthy. As a matter of fact, I don't think I was doing most of these well, genuinely. It's actually kind of a mirror for us to look back at those times when we weren't doing any of this. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I went from 160 pounds to 220 pounds. I gained 60 pounds in 6 months. And people were like, whoa, you need to stop. Like, you're getting fat. Like, please stop. Like, people were honestly very mean to me, genuinely. I cried a lot that year and a half. But I was doing it on purpose. I wanted to gain as much muscle as I could. Now, when I was 220 pounds, a lot of my friends thought I was fat. And I did, in their defense, look pretty fat, honestly. But what they didn't realize is that I was about to shed all that fat, and there was a lot of muscle underneath it. Okay, so if you've seen a photo of me at 220 pounds, there's this one picture I use in Newport where I was looking heavy.
Looking thick.
Looking thick. But what they don't see is all the muscle underneath that. And so I went from 160 to 220, gained 60 pounds, okay? People thought that was a very bad idea. But then after that, I lost 45 pounds. I went from 220 to 185. So 35 pounds, 35 pounds. Then I was ripped. I had a six-pack. I had muscle mass. I was looking really good. That's when everyone was like, oh my God, like, can you help me with fitness? But what they didn't see is me gaining the 60 pounds first of muscle. All they saw was me eating donuts and like, why are you doing that? Doesn't make any sense. It's like I'm carbing up before the gym, right? So weight training, though, is my point. You cannot gain muscle mass without weight training. Like, stop kidding yourself, please. I feel really passionate about this, and I don't want to be mean, but if you want a healthy, strong physique, you're going to have to weight train. If you've ever seen a Bowflex commercial, or honestly, even Greg Plitt, one of my heroes, was really guilty of this. He had that Astro Ball or whatever that he came out with, and it was like you do push-ups on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, honestly, Greg, I'm sorry, but that's a little bit, I don't want to be mean to Greg, R.I.P. I love Greg Plitt, I do, but it's a little misleading. You selling an Astro Ball after you spent a decade weight training and then making people believe that they can get that physique with that Astro Ball, it's just not true. It's not true, and I can't stand it when people do that. The guys in the Bowflex commercial didn't get that way with Bowflex. There's not enough weight on Bowflex for them to look like that. So weight training is what you need. It's not what you want. It's not what you want. It is what you need. I'm sorry, there is no way around it. It is the case. Everyone wants muscle mass, and you can't get it without weight training. And honestly, physiques don't look good without muscle mass. It's the common denominator between all strong, healthy physiques. It's what's attractive, and there's evolution that goes into that. And I'm not going to sugarcoat that one. So how focused are you on building muscle mass? Most people want to lose weight, and that's their problem. I want you to lose weight too, but I want you to lose fat, not muscle mass. You cannot lose body weight without also losing muscle mass. The question is, how much muscle are you losing? So, super simple analogy. I got to drive this home. 2 people go to the gym every day. They both want to, quote unquote, look better for the beach. Okay? One of them jumps on the treadmill and does cardio for 30 minutes. The other one weight trains and strength trains. Okay? Both of them lose 15 pounds. Okay? One of them loses mostly muscle. Guess who? It's the one who's doing cardio. The other one retains more muscle, still loses muscle, but retains most of the muscle because they're strength training with weights. They won't look even close to the same. They both lost 15 pounds. They will not look the same. Okay? I can't tell you any other way. If you're not weight training, you'll never have a really good physique. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is, and I'm going to tell you.
Hardcore Jeff.
Yeah, I got to.
It's interesting, too, because you guys have all seen the commercials of Weight Watchers and blah, and blah, and blah, and blah. It's easy to advertise that stuff. It's not easy to advertise going to the gym because the only people that can monetize that are the gyms, right? Like, you don't see a ton of commercials for gyms. You see a lot of commercials for diets, for meal replacements, for shakes, for whatever it is, right? So at the end of the day, it's hard to advertise what's not sexy, but this is what it takes. Like, I've been doing this for a long time. Alan's been doing this for a long time. I used to train people. Alan used to train people. I've seen a lot of myths, and one that is across the board is the people who have muscle on their body are usually the healthier ones, as long as they're not taking steroids and all that, right? At the end of the day, a healthy, capable body is one that performs, and I'm actually going to talk about that in number 9. When Alan and I went to Brendan Burchard's event, the first one, what was the first one even called?
Oh, High Performance Academy.
My goodness.
Yeah.
We saw, for the first time ever, I was introduced to Doc Jen Esker. I didn't know who she was. I didn't follow her on Instagram.
Shout out to Doc Jen.
Shout out to Doc Jen.
Big fan.
Yes. She did this exercise, and I will never forget this. She said, all right, everybody, we're going to do a physical exercise. I want everybody to go sit down. And we're like, all right, cool, we're going to go sit down. She said, all right, I want everybody to get up without using your hands.
Sit down on the ground.
Yeah, sit down on the ground. Yeah. Makes sense, right? It's going to Jeff. So she literally said, I want everybody to sit down on the ground, and I want you to try to get up without using your hands. And I don't remember the exact stat, but she basically said that they can tell within some percentage, like, you're more likely to have a heart attack or heart disease if you can't get up without using your hands. We just lost the screen. Everything just died. But literally, this is what I want you to do after this. I want you to sit down. I don't know if the camera could even see me. No, they wouldn't be able to see me. I want you to sit down and literally stand up without using your hands.
I was scared. I didn't think I'd be able to do it. You probably can, but I think it's important to try.
I knew I could because of jiu-jitsu. You know what I'm saying? And that was the other thing she said is, like, when you're kids, you're on the ground. When you're born, or not when you're born, when you're an infant, you can literally put your foot in your mouth. Like, most of us can't do that anymore.
I cannot do that.
I can't do that either. So my point that I'm trying to make with this is mobility. Number 1, mobility. I do mobility just about every single day, where I am on the ground, foam rolling and all that happy jazz. Maybe for you, it's just moving your body. But at the end of the day, that really stood out for me. Like, if you can't stand up without using your hands, you're at a higher chance of certain illnesses. And I know a lot of people that can't do that. I would say not the majority of people, but, what is it, 40 or 50% of the country is obese?
Oh, 66%.
66. That's more than I thought.
Two-thirds.
So a lot of those people probably aren't able to do that. So after this, sit down on the ground, get up without using your hands. If you can't do it, it's time to make a change.
66% are overweight, not obese. Sorry about that.
You
Not
are.
obese.
You should be.
Yes.
You should be.
That's my bad. All right. So are we good with all that?
Yeah, no, everything's going to be
Technically?
fine, I think.
It's all good?
No, everything's going to be fine. Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. So number 10, Sam Skelly changed my life. So Mark, Kevin, and I were in the studio
Mark Metry.
not long ago. Mark Metry, yeah. And we were doing breath work. I did breath work every day for probably 2.5 months or so. And it was so unbelievably life-changing. It's definitely a habit that I want to include in my new system redesign that I'm doing this weekend. But basically, if you've never tried breath work, you got to at least try it. Like, please. It was so life-changing for me. I mean, Kevin, Mark, and I picture all three of us like in tears in the studio, just full vulnerability, full expression, full energy. My throat chakra was opened up. It's like a whole thing. It really is very cool. So if you haven't tried it, please give it a shot. Episode 402. You can go on YouTube. Episode 402 with Sam Skelly, or you can go on iTunes, episode 402 with Sam Skelly. If you go to the tail end, the last 10 minutes, she took us through a breathwork exercise that is just truly life-changing. I can't wait to do it more. And basically, what you do is just like breathe in really heavily for like a full 6 minutes, but she put awesome songs to it. It's just a super heartwarming experience. I've also had a lot of memories come back to me, so that can be a little bit scary, honestly, depending on how much trauma you've had in your past. But it's been sincerely life-changing, and I do feel like a fully expressed version of myself more so than I did before that. I think our body, Prepo Toplitsky talks a lot about this, our body retains trauma. Our cells retain trauma. For a long time when I did breath work, my throat would get all red and my throat chakra would be like pulsing. And I don't know why that is. I'm assuming it's from the difficult stuff I grew up in. But the point is I feel like a more expressed version of me now. You know, I think that all of you will feel that way. And again, I know Kevin will explain his experience.
Yeah, it's interesting that I don't know that I ever could have guessed that it would be as powerful as it was. But it was literally every time Mark would come to the studio, that was something we'd do. We'd be like, hey, you want to do breath work today? And we would usually end up crying. And I remember one day, I think Taryn went somewhere, and I was like super overwhelmed with something. And I was literally like, all right, I'm just going to do breath work. And I literally just bawled my eyes out for like a half hour. But it's like a good cry. It's not a bad one. It's a good cry. So I would honestly definitely do that. And it was like, if you guys might have been in that. Right? We had like 20-something people in the room, and I think 95% of the people were crying. So you might have actually experienced that. If you can consistently add that to your routine, I think that'll be a game changer.
Fire.
All right, so we have 2 bonuses quickly. So it is very hard for a healthy plant to grow in toxic soil. All right, so I'm going to make this one quick because Alan has one too. I want 2021 to be the year that you get rid of the toxic relationships. You abandon the toxic relationships. I'm lucky. I've never really been in a friendship where I was the one who got made fun of, or people laughed at my expense. I've been very lucky. I didn't really surround myself with those people, but I know a lot of people who are in those situations, and they think they have to stay in those relationships, whether they're the intimate relationships or just their friend circle. Make 2021 the year that you actually get into a group of people who appreciate you for you. Make 2021 the year where you become the sum average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you're spending your time with toxic people, you're probably going to become one of them, and you're not going to have the life that you want. You're not going to feel healthy when it comes to physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual health. Quick with it.
Never forget when you said that if you spend time with
4 smokers, you'll become the 5th.
You'll become the 5th. I loved when you said that. That was powerful. Okay, last thing, and this is a bonus. Surplus versus a deficit. I'm going to try to explain this. And this is kind of a heavy order, and I only have 3 minutes to do it, not even. So, I don't want to assume anyone knows what a calorie is. I know that you know of it, but do you know what it really is? So a calorie is a unit of energy. So I don't care if it's a calorie of a Pop-Tart or a calorie of lettuce. It's still a unit of energy that your body uses as ATP, as energy to move. Okay? So a calorie is a calorie. And I wanted to define that. I also wanted to define for you guys what a macro is and a micro is. If you know what macronutrients are, they are carbs, proteins, and fats. Okay? And if you know what micronutrients are, that's vitamins, minerals, all that kind of stuff. So what you want to do is have the right amount of calories based on the goal. Okay? Super simple. If you want to gain weight, you must be in a surplus. Here's a good analogy. You all know out there that you can't get wealthy by spending more money than you earn. Imagine someone who always spends more money than they earn. They will never be wealthy, correct? Okay. If you spend more calories than you earn, than you input, you will always lose weight. Okay? It's the same with calories. So calories in versus calories out. If you want to gain weight, make sure you're eating more than you burn. If you want to lose weight, make sure you're eating less than you burn. Super simple. Okay? Macros and micros. Macros are carbs, proteins, fats. I think carbs should be 50%, protein should be 30%, fat should be 20%. That's just my thing. But what I want you to do is download MyFitnessPal or another app and do what they recommend. They have all algorithms, but keep it simple. Micronutrients, try to get as many fruits and veggies as possible. It's simple, but remember, common knowledge is not common practice. How many calories did you eat yesterday? If you can't answer that, you will not ever be in exceptional shape. I know I'm being mean here, but if you can't answer how many calories did you eat yesterday?
Oh, I have no idea.
You have an idea.
No, I don't. No, genuinely. Taryn and I went out to eat. I've never had a charcuterie board, whatever the hell it's called.
Oh, okay.
Charcuterie. It was really good.
What are you averaging per day, you think?
Probably like 2,900.
Okay. So see, he does know kind of the answer. All right. Same with me. I know of my answer. You have to learn how to track calories, macros, and micros. You just have to. Otherwise, you'll spend your whole life spinning your wheels, in my honest opinion.
And if I was trying to lose weight, I would know the exact number, and I would also know exactly how much I weigh. So in fairness, I'm just kind of letting it fly right now.
Right.
But yeah, like when you go on a diet, a good coach is going to tell you, you eat this, you eat this, you eat this, you eat this. Those are based on calories. Those are based on the fact that chicken plus broccoli plus rice plus lean beef plus eggs, okay, that's 1,900 calories. Boom, you should lose weight on that.
Yeah. Fire.
You dig?
Yeah. So have you been tracking? If not, why not? Last.
Yeah, no,
MyFitnessPal. You got to download that. What are some of the other ones?
Lane Norton has one called Carbon,
Okay.
and it literally updates things for you. It's supposed to be a pretty good app as well.
Cool.
There's some other ones.
You got to
Measure
have
Me.
some sort of tracking app.
Yeah. You dig?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you guys as always. Next week, we have a very special guest, the one and only Brant Pinvidic. I almost pronounced his name wrong again. He was the producer of The Biggest Loser. He spoke at our event that we co-hosted, Top Notch Live in 2019.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
It's
it was
time's
2019.
flying. But he's also an author. He has a book all about effectively communicating your point. It's called The 3-Minute Rule. So we're going to have him next week as our special guest. And as always, there it is right there.
3-minute
Please join us in Next Level Nation. Amy is doing a ton of lives, listener lives, team lives, all of that happy jazz. And as always, we don't have fans. We have family.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.